Let's get it! 580 Sports Talk, live and direct on a Tuesday. Welcome in. Thanks for being with us on a beautiful day in the capital city on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream. Check us out on YouTube on our channel 580 Sports Talk, or on Facebook at WIBW News, streaming in video. The gang's all here. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis. Enjoy it while it lasts. It won't last long. Brendan Dworzinski is on his way to Kansas City in the T-Mobile Center for the Big 12 men's basketball tournament. It doesn't quite have the same juice as quarterfinal Thursday, which is my favorite day of the tournament. This is Pigtail Tuesday, Loser Tuesday. Like, I don't know what you call this particular day of the tournament, but the Big 12 tournament in full swing. One team already going home. If you were an Oklahoma State fan, hope you didn't book a hotel. You're not going to need one. The Cowboys losing to Cincinnati resoundingly earlier today.
Man, you want to talk about a game with some rancid vibes. Yeah. Cincinnati versus Oklahoma State at noon on a Tuesday.
in Kansas City.
Yes, in KC.
Two incredibly disappointing teams with some big sim-to-end energy to their seasons.
But you know what the bummer about that in particular is? If those two teams were good, especially Cincinnati, they would pack the T-Mobile Center for their game. Like,
Cincinnati travels. They have a great basketball culture.
I believe when they get good again, and I don't know if it'll be with Wes Miller, but when they get good again, they are going to travel really well. And it's not quite going to be Hilton South, but it's going to be plenty of Bearcats packing in at the T-Mobile Center once they get good again. Unfortunately, that might be another year or two.
Yeah, it really might. The game going on right now, number 9 seed TCU in a tight one with number 16 seed Colorado, 27-26, the score of that game presently. Cincinnati beat Oklahoma State earlier today. Brendan will be taking in the evening session, which at 6 o'clock will feature the number 10 seed Kansas State Wildcats as they take on the number 15 seed Arizona State Sun Devils. Two teams split the regular season series, both teams winning on the other's home floor. K-State, of course, did not have Coleman Hawkins for the game they lost to the Sun Devils at Bramlage. Tip-off is at 6, which means pregame coverage on the K-State Sports Network from Learfield is at 5 o'clock, which means that is when we take our leave of you tonight. So 2 hours of 580 Sports Talk today.
Here's the biggest drama of the day. What am I going to get from the Big 12 Eats menu?
What are you going to get from the Big 12 Eats menu?
So I've narrowed down a couple of options. Like, sorry, Iowa State, I don't need a walking taco. Like, I'm good. I'm going to pass on that.
You love a walking taco.
I'm going to pass on Big J's loaded mac and cheese because I can get that in a number of places nearer to home. A little less rare in this part of the country. And I'm going to pass on the UCF Citronaut drink because I don't drink pop. Even with ice cream in it, I don't drink pop.
Okay.
So take that off. I'm so tempted to get the Majerus special, the Utah-themed one. I loved Rick Majerus. May he rest in peace. Also, it sounds delicious.
It does.
So that one's at the top of the list. I'm not going to do the pepperoni roll because Spencer said it kind of sucks.
Good. There's a waste of money.
I like brisket, but I can get brisket in a lot of places around here, so I'll probably pass on Baylor's.
So I had the brisket tacos. They're doing brisket sliders this year.
Yes.
I did the brisket tacos last year, and they were top flight. They were really, really good.
Well, that's now Houston's doing brisket tacos.
Oh, Shasta's brisket taco.
I would be happy to do like 7 of these if it weren't for the fact, A, I'm only going to be there for half of the day, and B, if they didn't all cost $15.
They all cost a lot of money, yeah.
So, not sure about that. But I'm leaning toward the Majerus special. The brisket tacos, though, they might get the nod from me. Also, though, BYU, they got churros. Cosmos churros sound delicious.
That sounds like a top off the night, though.
Yeah, that might be your dessert for the late game.
Yeah.
We might do the Majerus special when I get there leading into the game. Yeah. I'll be locked in for the game and to do the post-gamer and the YouTube instant reaction and everything. I might get the churros as I wrap up the evening. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the game plan for
right.
Brendan tonight at the T-Mobile Center.
Make sure you're checking out the website, by the way, 580WIBW.com and the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. You might already be there, in fact, watching the show today. We'll have instant reaction from K-State coming up later tonight.
Yes, indeed, we will. Some more Big 12 men's basketball tournament talk in just a bit. And, of course, we'll get the Kansas perspective on things from Michael Swain of Fog.net, who will join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every Tuesday. KU's the number 6 seed. They'll play either Utah or UCF tomorrow night. I think they're kind of rooting for UCF, given the way the Utah game went. But maybe they want their lick back on the Utes. That game will be the late game tonight. If K-State beats Arizona State, they'll play at the 6 o'clock window again tomorrow against the number 7 seed Baylor. So we'll talk some Big 12 men's basketball tournament here on the show today in the 2 hours that we have with you. We'll also talk high school state basketball tournament, because those start tomorrow, and we have got quadruple header coverage scheduled. Now, are we going to be able to bring it to you? That's kind of going to depend on if K-State cooperates with us, how far they advance in the Big 12 tournament. They will preempt any high school basketball coverage if the Wildcats move through the tournament. But we have lined up for you quadruple header first-round coverage from Wednesday and Thursday in the KSHSAA High School Basketball State Tournaments. We've got a triple header from Emporia on Thursday in the boys 5A tournament. I'm lubricating the pipes, getting ready for that one. Looking forward to that. We're going to get a preview of those with Rick Peterson of TopSports.News a couple of days earlier than usual for the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol will join us bottom of this hour, and we'll get a preview on state tournament action.
I'm going to need you to not
turn on your mic, please.
I'm going to need you to not lubricate the pipes again. I'm going to need that one to retire.
Just strike that one from the record?
Yes, please.
It wasn't that bad. Get your mind out of the gutter. Goodness gracious. Anywho,
I turned off the mic because I started laughing. I couldn't.
What else were we going to talk about on the show today? Football.
Yeah,
NFL free agency. Chiefs made a move. Christian Fulton is the newest Chief.
Yeah, the weird factoid about the fact that his interception from last season.
Christian Fulton, 2-year deal, $20 million, $15 million guaranteed to join the secondary for the Chiefs. We'll break it down. Brendan and I both really like this move, and we will tell you why we like this move for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Love it.
The offshoot of the move, what it means for the rest of their offseason. We also got What Is Wrong With You coming your way. Little Random Question Tuesday coming up in a bit. Those things you've come to know and love from a Tuesday edition of the program. Do want to hear from you throughout the show today. Again, we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. We're here until 5 o'clock today, so get those texts into the text line, 785-272-9429. Tell us who you think is going to win the Big 12 tournament. What you think the chances are that K-State or KU can make a run in this tournament. 785-272-9429. You can also get at us in the YouTube live chat. If you are watching the show on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, hit us up in the live chat. We appreciate everybody who is joining us in the live chat. Mark H., Triple G's in, Vance, McFly Cowboy are in early on as well. Appreciate those of you who are already with us, those of you who will join us throughout the show, and those of you who are maybe watching us say these words a few hours late or the next morning if you're catching up with the archive video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Let's talk some hoops. Big 12 men's basketball tournament. It is underway. Cincinnati, a winner of Oklahoma State, as we mentioned, 87-68 in the first game today. The second game currently in progress is the Colorado TCU game. That game has hit the half with TCU ahead 27-26. K-State plays tonight. They're the number 10 seed. They take on number 15 seed Arizona State, then the number 11 seed Utah against the number 14 seed UCF. K-State and KU are on the same half of the bracket. And I got to be honest with you. I think it's the side of the bracket you want to be on.
I'm with you.
I think KU and K-State are on the side of the bracket that are a little more conducive to make a run. And maybe that's not respecting Texas Tech enough and what they've accomplished this season. I still feel like they are a little overlooked when it comes to the league. I mean, for God's sake, they finished second in the league. The advanced metrics have loved them all season long. They got the Conference Player of the Year in JT Toppin. But I still look at Texas Tech and I see a beatable basketball team. I see a team that you can go beat. They're much better offensively than they've been. Ken Pomeroy of Ken Pom fame jokingly said on Blue Sky last night that he thinks Jeff Linder should have been the Big 12 Coach of the Year. He is effectively the offensive coordinator for Grant McCaslin's Texas Tech staff.
Yep.
Because that team used to play the slowest down-tempo basketball you've ever seen. And they hired Jeff Linder, who'd been a head coach at Wyoming, Northern Colorado, and said, you're in charge of what we run on offense. And Texas Tech became one of the best offensive teams in the Big 12. So maybe we're disrespecting Texas Tech. I'm open to the idea that we still, for whatever reason, do not take them as seriously as we ought to among the top-tier teams in the Big 12. But that's the KU half of the bracket. The K-State half of the bracket is you have Texas Tech, the 2 seed, and Arizona, the 3 seed. If you're K-State and KU, you've got wins over Arizona. K-State should have beaten Texas Tech. I think you could argue KU should have beaten Texas Tech. They didn't, but played them close. Those games were in doubt into the final minute.
Yeah, there's a difference between losing a game and like losing a game that's competitive for 40 minutes or, oh yeah, well, X team lost to Y team. That's almost a huge upset. Yeah, but like they went to overtime. Like it was close. The stats were similar. Like not every loss and not every win is created equal. So yeah, like I don't think Texas Tech is. They've been good. They have performed closer to their ceiling than KU has this year. For sure.
That is
but in
certainly
terms
true.
of the team, like you take it in a vacuum, I don't think Tech is like leagues better than Kansas is. Not close.
And the other half of the bracket, I think you have the 3 teams in this bracket you don't want to play, and they're all in the upper half of the bracket. First, number 5 seed Iowa State, who you just don't want to play at the T-Mobile Center. You don't want to play them at Hilton South. They are not fun to play when this tournament rolls around. The arena gets packed with the crimson and gold, and it does seem to bring out the best in Iowa State. Like it's not just that they got their fans, they turn out or whatever. They have historically played really, really well in this tournament. Hell, they won it last year. So Iowa State's on that side of the bracket. Good luck tomorrow, Cincinnati. Good luck with that. And then you have the 4 seed BYU, who I think is not fun to play because of how good they are offensively. And more than that, how modern they are offensively, like the stuff they run, the shots they get, like their shot selection in general. That to me, not in terms of talent, but in terms of the way that they can play and the way that they can try and score on offense, that's the closest thing to an NBA team in this league.
Yes.
So
agreed.
They're not a lot of fun to play, and that's not a coincidence that Kevin Young has an NBA background. Utah just hired a coach with an NBA background. Did you catch who Florida State just hired?
Yeah.
Luke Laux.
Yes, Laux.
Former Florida State player.
Yep.
What had he been doing the last handful of years?
Working in the NBA.
NBA assistant coach. That's going to be the new trend, folks. Just be aware of that. So there's BYU, who isn't any fun to play. And then obviously at the top of the bracket, you have the number 1 seed, Houston, who that's a trip to the dentist office every single game.
Yeah, I don't want to play them.
So the top of the bracket with Iowa State, BYU, and Houston, and then the bottom of the bracket with Texas Tech, Arizona, Baylor, who, look, Baylor's got the big talent in VJ Edgecombe, but it hasn't really clicked for Baylor the way I thought it might this year, even though they've had like individual guys have really good year. And maybe some of that is they've been dealing with injuries, and that's why it's never clicked. And maybe that makes them dangerous. If they can get healthy, they can go on a run, but it's never really come together for Baylor. And K-State went to Baylor back in January, and I thought that wasn't January. It was January.
It was the end-ish of January.
And K-State led that game by double digits in the first half. And if not for Gasson foul trouble and BJ Edgecombe takeover mode at home, they could very easily have won that game. Like I don't say this to say K-State and Kansas into the final, book it. I say all this to say that.
You mean semifinal?
Yes, they would play in the semifinal. K-State, KU to the semifinal. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is there are games that K-State and KU should not feel like they're going to be outmanned, outgunned. They should feel like they've got an opportunity to make a run in this tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
without question there. And, you mentioned that Baylor team and that Baylor game that K-State played. KU should have beaten them as well. And Baylor, K-State, I mean, the difference in that game, talking about not all losses are created equal. Baylor won that game because of one player. And K-State did not have enough answers after the first about 2 minutes for VJ Edgecombe. And that dude is going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft this coming year. Sometimes you just get Charles McDonald of Yahoo Sports. He talks about this when it comes to college football, but it applies to college basketball too. Sometimes you get blue chipped. Sometimes you get 5-starred. And that's
great way to put it.
Kansas State in that game. We have good basketball players. We don't have that dude. We don't have we might not have any NBA guys, let alone a guy who's going to be a top 5 pick, a no doubt lottery guy next year. But again, not all losses are created equal. You can try to find ways to mitigate that. And sometimes those guys just get you. Sometimes freshmen have freshman games as well, and you can play really well. And if K-State has a game where it actually runs real offense, yeah, that can make things a lot more difficult on Baylor. The Bears should be favored by 6 points, 5 points in that game, but is that a death sentence for K-State? No, absolutely not in a game like that. So I think that's a favorable matchup. Obviously, if you're KU, you'd love to get another crack at Utah. You've beaten UCF twice. One of those was hideous, but you should beat them. Craig Smith's not there at Utah anymore. Maybe that changes things. And you want to get another crack at Arizona because of how well, for the most part, this past weekend went. I think the road for KU is about as favorable as you could ask for, frankly, because you match up pretty well with Arizona because Arizona doesn't shoot threes. That's the best matchup for KU in the whole league.
According to Bart Torvik's tournament simulator, do you know which team seeded 9th through 16 had the best chance of making it to the quarterfinals? Best odds?
Utah.
Kansas State.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, no one should be, and you mentioned this, and our guy Triple G on the YouTube comments, he said it too. No one should be scared of this Baylor team. I'm scared of one player because he can take over, but I'm not scared of this Baylor team one bit. It is very funny for all the hand-wringing there has been from people outside of Manhattan, but also some K-State fans as well, a decent number this year. Hey, Jerome Tang, I thought we were supposed to expect to win. This is going to be 2 years in a row without the NCAA tournament. What's going on here? He left Baylor, and suddenly Baylor is no longer the top of the pops. They went from right next to KU as the power in the conference to, yeah, they're good. They're a tournament team, but could any other team in the conference beat them any given night? Yes. I believe that.
Did you see K-State will likely they'll make this tournament in Vegas?
Is it the Fox Sports tournament?
I think
the Crown or whatever.
Yeah, the Crown one. Big 12 gets their the best 2 teams that won't make the tournament are gonna make it. And as of this morning, if they're doing it by standings, Kansas State's one of the teams.
Interesting. I asked Dan off the air.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
K-State will get an NIT bid this year. I forgot that Fox is doing their own fake NIT.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yormark confirmed it this morning during his presser.
So I think for K-State, you go to one of them because, and
yes,
Dan made a point to me when we were having this conversation earlier today. Look, you got a lot of guys who are young who you expect to be back next year. David Castillo, especially, Onyenso, Moby, guys like that. You want to see them out there more. You want to give them plenty of run. You have to do something.
You have to think about it like getting bowl practice for your underclassmen, like a football team would look at. And it's an extra week. It's an extra game to prepare for. It's an extra game opportunity. Surely, you'd shut Coleman Hawkins down for it. You wouldn't play Coleman, even if he insisted. You say, no, dude. Whatever professional future you've got is not worth risking for the Crown or whatever nonsense Fox has going on. But the ability to play a competitive game and play in a winner-take-all tournament scenario, that is valuable. That is valuable for your young players. You think about it, and I know this season didn't go maybe the way he wanted it to go, and it doesn't look like he's maybe going to be back for his junior year, but Buddy Rich was great in the NIT game against Iowa last year, and that propelled him over the summer to put himself in a position where he was part of the rotation to start the season. Now, what the hell happened from there? Maybe only Jerome Tang and Buddy Rich know that for sure, but that was still valuable for K-State to have that game in the NIT. So it's obviously not the same as the NCAA tournament. Nobody's going to pretend like it is, but it does have, I think, value for a program with some young players.
I think K-State has a real shot. K-State should win tonight, and I think has a legitimate shot to beat Baylor. I think KU can make it to that Arizona game, or can beat Arizona and make it decently far in this tournament, which we know that the conference tournament's always overrated when it comes to changing seeding in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
But given the weird state of flux KU has been in, KU wins 2 games in this tournament, including knocking off third-seeded Arizona. Who knows what could happen if you get a rematch with Texas Tech? I imagine the committee, at least on Sunday, like, well, let's make sure we know we're putting Kansas on the 7 line. Just something to consider. One other real quick thing about the crown. I had not thought of this, and I think the tournament is stupid. However, we could hear Gus Johnson try to say Moby Ike Garuka. Moby Ike Garuka.
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm
like that's the whole point of doing this tournament at this point.
Say less. We'll take a timeout, come back with some Random Question Tuesday.
Uganda. Oh, no, you didn't.
Rick Peterson will join us preview state tournament basketball, and we'll work on that Gus Johnson impression after this timeout. You're just getting started on 580 Sports Talk. Random Question Tuesday on 580 Sports Talk. 5 years ago today, Rudy Gobert had the coronavirus, and the NBA shut down, and then the very next day, everything else shut down.
That was the infamous press conference where he
No, that was not the press conference.
Oh.
That happened days before.
Oh.
I think like 2 or 3 days before. But no, that was the night they were supposed to play. Utah was supposed to play at Oklahoma City, and Gobert was sick. They tested him. They didn't know what he had until like 5 minutes after the game was supposed to tip off. There's an oral history of it today on ESPN if you've got the time and desire to read about it. But anyway, 5 years ago today, what were you doing when the NBA shut down and the world got turned upside down?
I was covering a K-State game in the first round of the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City.
Did
5 years to the day, K-State beat TCU by 4. I think it was like 53-49. Disgusting basketball. Or 63-59. It was horrible. That was the last time I went to the Big 12 tournament.
Oh, wow.
5 years ago to the day. I guess technically I went on March 12th, heard, what the hell's his name? The commissioner.
Bob Bowlesby.
Bob Bowlesby, yes, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today. I heard Bob Bowlesby give a press conference like, yeah, we're packing it in. Sorry, media, go home. And I watched, what was it, St. John's Creighton on TV. They had no fans. The mascots were just chilling in the crowd, and they're playing the game. The whole world is collapsing on itself. And, like, St. John's just went up by 4 right before the half. Like, this is so dystopian.
So I watched that game in the coffee shop of a Barnes & Noble in Wichita. I was in Wichita for 6A state basketball.
Which game are we talking about here?
This is St. John's against Creighton. It was the last Big East tournament. It was the last
morning of March 12th, 2020.
And I
have a video of it actually on my phone.
I was sitting there eating a scone, and I was watching the game, and Hayden High's own Jet Canfield came off the bench for Creighton and was having himself a game. Like, it was going to be the Jet Canfield game. And then it was the Jet Canfield half because the teams did not come back out on the floor for the second half. And I remember that all happened before, like, we were going to have day 2 of the state basketball tournament. I remember thinking to myself, like, really good idea to, like, be in public or have day 2 of this basketball tournament. And kind of figured now as then that was about just making sure that every team that made it to state got a game.
Right.
Because that was first round, day 2 of the first round.
Yep.
They played day 1 of the first round on the 11th. And then that night got to the hotel and the NBA's postponed, canceled. Like, that was jarring.
Dude, I will remember forever because that's shout out Jeff Goodman. This is when all the media used to sit on the floor at the Big 12 tournament.
I do remember fondly.
I didn't have a table seat. I was just in a loose chair behind the tables, but I was on the floor.
A loose chair.
So, yeah, a loosey. And so, but I have my laptop on my lap and I'm, on Twitter or whatever during the game. And I see Woj tweet, the NBA is suspending its season. And you could hear the gasp in the crowd because it was already weird. Like everything already felt
because it was friends and family crowd, right? Like they were limiting.
No, they may have been. They may have limited it, but I don't remember for sure. But I just remember this like gasp, and the whole second half was like, "Ooh, this is eerie. This feels weird."
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just a very, very surreal night. No
doubt about it. Yeah, I was just thinking about that today, though. 5 years since I've been to the Big 12 tournament to the day today.
More random question?
Can I give mine?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I was in college radio still. Like, I'm still in college. We were getting ready to go to LA for a awards convention. But the conference tournament was happening. We were at all the women's basketball games. We had the SID go along, and we broadcast a women's basketball game. Marshall was set to play the morning that everything kind of went haywire. They literally, we started the broadcast, had the pregame interview, and the SID was like, yeah, this is the end, guys. Back in the studio. I don't know what to do here, but can you guys take over because there's going to be no game. I will call you guys, and like he literally said it's on there. I will call you guys and let you know if anything else develops. Have a good one, and clicks off the laptop.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and then I went back in, and then I was back in our little staff room, and we were watching that game that you guys were just talking about, the Creighton game.
Yeah,
and then that night, I was at my fraternity house, and it just wouldn't stop raining. I was like, "This is exactly the vibe of life right now."
Real symbolism.
Symbolism for sure. That is going to do it for Random Question Tuesday. Brennan, you are off to Kansas City.
Yes, indeed I am.
Safe travels. Enjoy the Big 12 Eats. I expect a full food review.
Oh, you'll get it. And again, check out the website, 580wibw.com and the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel tonight. We'll have the write-up as well as the instant reaction live on both those places.
Coming up next, Rick Peterson joins us to preview state high school basketball here on 580 Sports Talk. Gracious enough to join us a couple days earlier than usual for the local sports spotlight, the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.News, covering Shawnee County High School athletics and Washburn University athletics on a day-to-day basis. That's the read, TopSports.News. And Rick Peterson joins us here on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol State Tournament basketball is here. And first of all, I got to point out the 5A boys contingent going down to Emporia from Topeka. How about that? 3 city teams all playing back-to-back-to-back on Thursday. That's going to be the place to be, White Auditorium on Thursday. Oh, we appear to have lost Rick Peterson. Had him and lost him. phone call just dropped there. So we'll try and reconnect with Rick Peterson here momentarily. Looks like he's calling us back, in fact. So hopefully we can get Pistol right back on with us. Again, TopSports.News is the website. There is a preview out today of the state tournament. I believe we have Pistol back on. Pistol, 3 city teams playing a triple header in boys basketball 5A in Emporia. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. It's good. It's always good to see of my 10 county teams that I cover, of 10 county schools, 20 county teams, 10 of them made it. So I think that's really good. It just speaks to the quality of basketball in this area.
Let's start with that tournament because it is the one with the most local presence, 5A overall. And we'll start on that boys' side. Highland Park, number 1 seed. They have finished 3rd each of the last 2 years with narrow semifinal losses to the team that ended up going on to win it all. What do you make of Highland Park's chances this year? What do you sense might be a little different about this team that could give them that extra edge to try and go win it in 5A?
I'll be honest with you. I thought it was going to be a tough battle for them to get out of sub-state because I've seen that Baser Linwood team. I've known what they've done. They beat Piper. They've played Shawnee Heights tough. They beat Seaman. But I was really impressed with their defense in that game. And if they can play that kind of defense in the state tournament, that may be the difference maker because you know what you're going to get pretty much out of Ja'Cory Robinson and the rest of those, frontliners like Mikey Williams and those guys. But if you hold the other team to a, pittance, you got a chance to win.
Topeka West also out there. They're on the other half of the bracket, and they get the defending champs, Cape and Mount Carmel, in round 1. Capen's on a 14-game winning streak. So a tough draw for Topeka West, but they have been playing better basketball down the stretch. They had a bit of a wobbly period middle of the season, but looks like they've gotten Jalen Foy going, and that's been really important for Christian Olsaker's bunch to get their senior all-league guard in fine form.
Yeah, and, it will be a tough test because Steve X won a ton of titles at multiple schools, and they're the defending champs, and their 3 losses were to good teams in that good Wichita area. So, but as I'm working on my picks right now, and I said it and I believe it, West has the athleticism to compete with anybody. So if they come out hot and they're able to kind of, cut down the other team on the other end, I think they can play with any team in that field.
Shawnee Heights, familiar sub-state championship foe, St. Thomas Aquinas. They dispatched them just as they did last year. Now it's the familiar round 1 foe at state. Shawnee Heights taking on Piper, just like they did last year. And they had Piper beat. They had them dead to rights, and then Piper went on a 14-1 run in the final 2 minutes to sneak out a 1-point victory. Pirates also went 2-0 against Shawnee Heights in the regular season. What is Heights going to need to do to get over the Pirate hump?
I don't know. I was sorry to see this matchup because I think both those teams are capable of making some doing some damage, and one of them's going to go home early. But they just got to take it to Piper. They took it to Piper the first time they played this season and got a sizable halftime lead, and then let Piper come back in it and get back in it just like they did last year at state. So they got to take it to Piper early and then just kind of, and then maintain. But I think, Shawnee Heights is really playing well. I think they always have a chance with scorers like Jarrett Sanchez and Deacon Pomeroy. They're going to have some of the other quote-unquote role players step up and do some damage.
Rick Peterson of TopSports.News joining us for the local sports spotlight, previewing state tournament basketball with us here on 580 Sports Talk. Over on the girls' side of the 5A bracket, KSHSAA appears to have made an error in printing the bracket. They put the title game in round 1, in my opinion, with Seaman versus Piper. I think those are the 2 best teams. We have seen how evenly matched they are, with Seaman beating them twice by a combined 3 points. We get round 3 from those teams, and I thought we would see it. You talk about being disappointed in a round 1 matchup. It is wild to me that one of those teams is not going to make the semifinals.
Yep, exactly what I just said about the Piper Heights matchup on the boys' side. Yeah, no, And to people that don't know, it's not like there's a big conspiracy theory or anything. They go strictly by records, and I don't know how exactly they break the tie if there are similar records, but it worked out that way. I don't like it for the same reason that you don't like it, because those are, like you said, two of the absolute best teams in the field. But it is what it is, and you look at it two ways. One, that they got to beat a really good team for a third time. While on the other side, hey, they've beaten this team twice and found a way to win.
Let's go to 6A, Pistol. Washburn Rural's boys and girls both making the trip. First time that's been the case since 2019, when both of them played all the way to championship Saturday. Of course, Carly Batchelor and the Lady Blues won the state title that year. Jordan White and the Junior Blues boys fell short to Christian Brown and Blue Valley Northwest in that title game. This year, really tough first-round matchups. Rural boys have the perennial power, Wichita Heights, and the rural girls play the number one ranked team in the class, Blue Valley North. Tell me about these rural teams and what kind of fight you expect them to put up down in Wichita this week.
Well, the boys team, let's start with the boys team. I mean, what a great season they've had. They got off to, I think it was like an 0-6 start last year. They came back and had a very respectable season, and then just been strong all the way through this year. Won the Centennial League by multiple games. Anybody that knows a lot about Kansas basketball knows about Joe Hauer and Wichita Heights. So yes, it was a very tough draw, but they didn't ask anybody, so you got to deal with it. You got to go out there, and I think they can play with Heights. You just got to, again, kind of like I said a little bit ago, you got to kind of take control early. You can't, especially against a team like Wichita Heights, you're not going to come from 15 down, I don't think.
As for the girls, again, they play the number one team, Blue Valley North. Their best players going to KU next year, big-time recruit. But Kevin Borwick always seems to make it happen in March. What's the special sauce, and how can this team duplicate it?
Well, they've been in the finals 3 straight years. They've won a bunch of titles. They really seem to play well at state, and they're going to have to. This team this year is kind of I just don't know what to think about them sometimes. I mean, they've been very, very good, and then some other times I think they've struggled. So they're going to have to be very, very good, in the first round. But I think, like you said, they usually are. Borwick's teams are always good at state.
We're talking to Rick Peterson of TopSports.News for the local sports spotlight, previewing the state basketball tournaments coming up starting on Wednesday here across the state of Kansas on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol, let's go down to 4A with the Hayden girls, a number one seed out east, and an outstanding year, 20-2 for Carvel Reynoldson squad. And their reward is being on the same side of the bracket as Bishop Miege. Bit of a tough draw there. It's not going to be easy for Hayden, but I think they've got the juice. I think that team has the capability to run through that 4A bracket in Salina. It's a really good one, really top heavy. But Hayden has shown that they can play with anybody.
Yeah. So that's the topic of this conversation, right, Dan? Tough matchups. I mean, tough draws. It seems like in every class we've talked about, that's the case, and it's the case again. But I agree with you. I think if Hayden plays like they can play, like the team that's that beat Washburn Rural twice, and like the team that's been really good all year, I do. I think they can play with anybody. What I like about Hayden is their balance. If you concentrate on Millie Ramsey, Haley Smitline, or Briley Meyer, or Norma Greco are going to get you. So I think they can spread the wealth a little more than a lot of 4A teams.
Let's round it out with the county squads that are headed to state tournaments. Silver Lake's girls and boys qualifying for state in the same year. That had never happened before, which was really surprising for me to hear. But Silver Lake boys and girls headed to Hutch. And again, let's continue the theme. Tough matchups. Silver Lake girls, the defending champs, they're on the same side of the bracket as Heston, the team that they beat in the state final last year. Silver Lake draws a very good Lakin team from out of western Kansas, 22-1 on the year on the boys' side. What do you think the chances are of the Eagles making runs to Saturday?
Well, what I always like about Silver Lake, and it's kind of like when we talk about Hayden in various sports, Silver Lake always expects to win. I don't care if, what the records are or what seed they are or anything else. Because of their tradition and because of, just their upbringing and everything else, they expect to win. So I think, even though the Silver Lake girls are a lot younger than they were last year when they had that really good senior class, I think they're going to, hey, we're the defending champions. We're going to go in, and until somebody proves otherwise, we are the champions. And then the boys, good, just a real good season for them to get to this point. You got nothing to lose now. Let's go for it. And I think they will. Again, it's going to be a tough first round matchup, but I want them to go out loose and just play like they can and like they have been lately, and ride Dane Johnson a little bit and see where that takes you.
And lastly, Pistol, 2A boys, Rossville back at state, first time in a little bit for the Dogs, and their 16-7 record is very misleading. That's a product of the league and the tough schedule they play in the Big East. I think just like they did as the 5 seed in their sub-state going on and upsetting Mauer Hill Mount Academy in the sub-state final, I think that that team has the capability and the talent and the athleticism to make a run at Bramlage Coliseum and pull some more upsets as the 6th seed here.
Yeah, and that's the fact that they're in the 2A state tournament probably is a product of that tough league schedule because it got them ready. And they don't just beat Mauer Hill; I think 19 points. So that's that's they're going to be. They're going to be a force, and I really like what Brandon McDonald, Topeka High boy, is doing with that program. They got some good athletes in Jack Donovan and Cameron Miller and Cameron Badura, and I think they're definitely a dark horse contender.
Rick Peterson will have it all covered. There's already a preview up on the website, TopSports.News, talking about that 5A contingent and more games coming up this week. So check it out, TopSports.News, place to go for the preview of the state tournament, all the coverage of all of these Shawnee County teams in the tournament from Rick Peterson. Pistol, thanks so much for joining us on this Tuesday, and we'll look forward to maybe seeing you out at a state site here these next 4 days.
Well, I'm going to be hanging out in Emporia. So,
then I will see you there.
We will.
I will see you there. Thanks,
okay.
Rick. That is Rick Peterson. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up this hour 580 Sports Talk after this. Our thanks again to Rick Peterson of TopSports.News for joining us for the local sports spotlight. WIBW entering its 58th year. That's kind of cool. 580, 58th year of state basketball tournament coverage, and it begins tomorrow. Now, coverage is subject to change depending on the K-State basketball result tonight, but we know that we will be bringing you, at least in part, at least 3 games tomorrow, and we are hopeful. Well, I shouldn't say we're hopeful for the quadruple header because that would imply that we hope K-State loses. That's not true. But we will bring you a quadruple header if they do. So hopefully that's a consolation if K-State does, in fact, lose at the Big 12 tournament tonight. We can tell you our coverage will get underway at 2 o'clock with a game out in Dodge City in 1A Division I girls basketball. Centralia taking on St. John Hudson. Then at 4 o'clock, coverage from 2A boys in Manhattan as Valley Falls takes on Syracuse. Our scheduled 6 o'clock primetime featured game, 5A girls, Seaman and Piper. I said I believe that's really the championship game in 5A girls, with no disrespect to a loaded field. I think those are the 2 best teams. That is our 6 o'clock scheduled featured game. The 8 o'clock game, which we would join in progress if there was a K-State game, 6A boys, Washburn Rural, and Wichita Heights. It's going to be a fun day of basketball. We got one more hour of 580 Sports Talk, and it's coming up after this break.
proposal to implement a 30-day interim ceasefire. So, of course, that requires Russia's agreement as well.
We're going to take the offer. We're going to tell them this is what's on the table. Ukraine is ready to stop shooting and start talking. And now it'll be up to them to say yes or no.
More immediately, the U.S. has agreed to lift the pause on intelligence sharing and the delivery of military aid to Ukraine.
President Trump told reporters today he would welcome Zelensky back to the White House and would likely speak to Russian President Putin this week.
Hopefully, President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road.
While 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum kick in tomorrow for Canada, the president decided not to double them after Ontario Premier Doug Ford backed down on its planned surcharges on electricity sold to 3 U.S. states.
Rather than going back and forth and having threats to each other, we have both agreed, let cooler heads prevail. We need to sit down and move this forward.
Clock is ticking in Washington to avert a government shutdown. The Republican-led House plans to vote later today on a stopgap measure to keep it funded beyond Friday. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
We could do it on our own, but what I'm saying is Democrats ought to do the responsible thing, follow their own advice in every previous scenario, and keep the government open.
Federal investigators just issued 2 urgent recommendations over that deadly mid-air collision near Washington.
TSB Chairman Jennifer Homendy is recommending a permanent ban on some helicopter traffic because helicopters and aircraft are flying too close in some areas.
They pose an intolerable risk.
She says under current rules, helicopters and planes can be as close as 75 feet apart during landing. Allison Keyes, CBS News, Washington.
It was 5 years ago the World Health Organization officially said the COVID outbreak was an international pandemic. Former White House COVID response coordinator Dr. Ashish Jha.
COVID is still around. COVID is still a bit of a problem. I think for elderly people, high-risk people, immunocompromised people, it can still be pretty serious. I think for healthy Americans, no, I don't think it poses a big risk. We deal with respiratory viruses all the time. COVID is just one of them.
Another setback for Tiger Woods. He says he ruptured his Achilles tendon and just had surgery, which will likely keep him out of the Masters. It was another topsy-turvy day on Wall Street today. The Dow ended down 478 points, NASDAQ down 32. This is CBS News.
Brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You can save big when you bundle your auto, home, motorcycle, RV, or boat. Visit Progressive.com.
Kansas Information Network News, I'm Lisa Ruttman. The city of Hayes will switch its water disinfectant from chloramine to free chlorine.
Starting today through May 12th, this temporary change may cause slight taste and odor differences. The switch helps clear organic buildup in pipes, ensuring safe water quality. The Hayes Fire Department will also flush hydrants to improve the system. Residents should share this update, especially with those who may not receive notices. Water remains safe to drink. For more details, contact the Water Resources Department. I'm JP Bazette.
A small earthquake was reported in Kansas. The U.S. Geological Survey says a 2.7 magnitude quake was recorded near the Elite Sports Paintball Center on I-135 in Saline County around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. There were no reports of any injuries or damages. This is Kansas Information Network News.
Tough, reliable, and ready to work. You were born that way. Kubota is built that way. Our entire ag lineup, featuring versatile tractors and hay tools, powerful skid steer motors, and the rugged sidekick utility vehicle, is designed with the engine of a Kubota and the heart of a farmer. Visit KubotaUSA.com to find a dealer near you.
Oh, could this vintage Steeler be any cuter? Right? And the best part? Except Discover. Except Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer. Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times. Right. So we shouldn't get the parachute pants? These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Paint, rubber, crayons, soybeans can make those. Feed for animals, food for us, fuel for our trucks. Yep, those too. Soybeans are a humble little crop that do so much. In fact, they're the most important bean in the world's economy, and many get their start right here in Kansas. The soybean checkoff ensures that there is always an innovative way to use soy. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Here's your updated forecast on 580 WIBW. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with a high of 71. Northeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Low around 42. Tonight, partly cloudy. High of 74 tomorrow. Clear skies Thursday with daytime highs approaching 77, 78. Chance of thunderstorms Friday. I'm meteorologist Ray Miller in the Capitol Federal Weather Center. Currently 71.
On air and online at 580WIBW.com.
Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on a Tuesday. It is our final hour today, and it is our final hour this week on 580 Sports Talk. In all likelihood. I guess I can't guarantee that part of it, but obviously we've got high school basketball coverage. The 580 Press Road to a Championship coming your way the next 2 days, and in all probability, we'll have a game for you in the 2 o'clock window on Friday as well. So if we do, then this is going to be the final hour of 580 Sports Talk for the week. I'm crazy. I apologize if that hurts anyone's feelings or disrupts anyone's routine, but hopefully instead you'll just leave your dial right here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, and online at 580WIBW.com, and you will check out our 580 Preps Road to a Championship coverage. The next 4 days, our 58th year of state basketball coverage on WIBW. One more hour of the show. You're hearing us on the Sports Voice of Kansas, all those places I just told you about, plus our video stream. We're on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. We are on Facebook, WIBW News. You're getting a different camera angle. We've got a solo catbird seat shot for when there's just one of us in the main studio that I am giving a test run today. And my initial...
What if we half these? It just looks, the proportion just looks wrong. I don't know if it's the angle of the camera or something.
I know I look very pink, but it's the lighting. That's a lighting issue. That's not a me issue. I have great skin.
I don't know. I will say our microphones don't look the best if you look at the bottom part of it, the stand.
What do you mean?
Like when you're looking at the camera shot and you're looking above listen live, that does not look great.
It's they're very hard to clean. They get a little bit of lint, they get a little bit of dust. This part of the
yes,
you can see me caressing it on the YouTube shot.
Stroking it.
You said that, not me. You said that. Anyhow, just try something different. We may never do it again. Who knows? If we don't, then this will be an odd 1 hour blip in 580 Sports Talk's video streaming history. But you can watch us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, hanging out with you for this final hour. Brendan Dworzinski will be in Kansas City tonight for the Big 12 tournament. He'll have an instant reaction to K-State's game against Arizona State tonight on this YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and a write-up at 580WIBW.com. Right now, told you Cincinnati beat Oklahoma State earlier, so that was the 13 beating the 12. Right now, the 16 is leading the 9 in the second game of the day. Colorado has led by double digits in the second half, currently up 6 on TCU, 63-57 with under 3 minutes to play at the T-Mobile Center. So the trend right now is lower seeds winning, and that is something that Kansas State will certainly hope that they can avoid as they are the number 10 seed taking on 15 seed Arizona State tonight. 6 o'clock tip-off, 5 o'clock pregame coverage on the K-State Sports Network from Learfield right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So that is why we are done an hour early today. In this final hour of the program, we have got little What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by State Farm agent Ryan Winkle. And it's going to be our weekly championship on What Is Wrong With You. So it'll be a short week champion, but a weekly champion all the same. Also joining us bottom of this hour, Michael Swain, Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He will join us for Jayhawk Weekly at the bottom of this hour. We'll get his thoughts on the upcoming Big 12 tournament, where KU is seated, what their chances are of making a run in this tournament. And we've got plenty of NFL free agency to talk about, including a new member of the Kansas City Chiefs that we'll tell you all about here in just a moment. But we want to hear from you throughout this final hour. Hit us up in the YouTube comments. If you are watching on YouTube, there is a live chat. You can interact with the live chat feature on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can also get at us in the text line, on the text line. Shoot us a text, 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. Let's talk football. Let's introduce you to the newest member of the Kansas City Chiefs. We had talked, and maybe not at length, but had certainly nodded to the idea that the Chiefs could use a little bit more depth at cornerback. That was a position the Chiefs felt pretty good about with their own guys. All of the guys at the position for the Chiefs in 2024 were in-house guys. And they felt good enough, in fact, about the guys they had in-house that they traded L'Jarius Sneed. Trent McDuffie, who continued to play to his previous career standard. They were getting Najee Johnson back from injury. They had Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams, both of whom had played a bunch. And that was a group of four that the Chiefs felt pretty good about. But what ended up happening, Johnson, I don't know that his athleticism came all the way back from the torn ACL, and he was maybe, and you alluded to this, Spencer, maybe being asked to do some things that were a little beyond his capabilities as a defensive back, and in a fashion that was exposed by opposing teams throughout the season. And Joshua Williams' play took a bit of a step back to the point where he got benched for Najee Johnson, and then he put back in the lineup, and it was more up and down than you would have liked and would have projected for Joshua Williams. And then you had Jalen Watson, who was playing great and then got hurt. And when he came back, wasn't quite the same guy, although understandably he was coming off of a significant ankle injury that caused him to miss a big chunk of the season. Now, that being said, you didn't leave the season feeling as good about cornerback depth as you did when you entered the season. And that made cornerback a position of need for the Chiefs. And today they have addressed that need with a player from the AFC West. Former Charger Christian Fulton is the newest member of the Chiefs. It is reportedly a 2-year deal worth $20 million, $15 million of it guaranteed. And Spencer, you nodded to this earlier, but Christian Fulton holds a rather, what is the word I'm looking for? A rather what is the word I'm looking for? Would be the answer
to like a Jeopardy question.
I would say it would be an inauspicious place.
Yes.
In 2024 Chiefs history.
Yes.
Inform the people.
So he was the Chargers cornerback. And I believe it was week 4 of the season. The Chiefs and the Chargers played each other.
Yes, they did at SoFi Stadium. I remember this game. Chiefs won it.
Yes, Chiefs won it, but Patrick Mahomes threw an interception.
He did. Who intercepted the pass, Spencer?
The newest Chief.
Christian
Fulton.
Huh.
And
well, did anything happen on the return of that interception?
So Patrick decided to run after it. After Fulton.
But that was fine. Like, he made the tackle, right?
Well, in the way of that, he also tore Rashee Rice's ACL.
Yeah, that was that play. Christian Fulton intercepting Patrick Mahomes led to Rashee Rice's season-ending injury. So, that is how you may remember Christian Fulton, if in fact that you remember anything him doing standing out in this past season. Christian Fulton, second-round pick out of LSU, was drafted originally by the Titans, spent his first 4 years with them, then ended up with the Chargers last season on a 1-year deal, played 15 games, started 14, recorded an interception, the 5th of his NFL career, 51 tackles, 3 for loss. The advanced metrics actually liked Fulton, at least in this regard, in terms of qualified defensive backs. There were 217 defensive backs that played enough snaps to qualify for this stat. And the stat is average separation allowed. So that's pretty self-explanatory, right? How far away the wide receiver is from the defensive back nearest in coverage. Christian Fulton ranked 24th best out of 217 qualified defensive backs in terms of average separation allowed. So that's fairly sticky coverage on a down in, down out basis from Fulton. And so he will join his third team in 6 years. For me, my initial thought was that this is a player that will allow the Chiefs to move Trent McDuffie back to the slot in nickel.
I think so.
And we all know McDuffie was an all-pro in the slot 2 years ago. That and like McDuffie's no slouch on the outside. He's an elite corner. Wherever you put him, he's going to excel. But if you have a chance to put an all-pro slot defender back in the slot and then play Watson and Fulton on the outside, I think that is a much better mix than what you ended up with. Where last year, if you would have tried to do that, you would have had both Williams and Watson on the outside, and that would not have worked because you didn't get consistent performance from either guy. Fulton being a veteran, having the draft pedigree that he has, you've got a little bit more certainty as far as the level of performance you're going to see. Now we have a counterpoint from the text line from the 785.
Yeah, I saw this.
Who offers this? Seeing Charger fans saying he sucks in open field man coverage. Well, here's what I will offer you. I think that Fulton is a guy who his critics would say that his performance or production maybe hasn't matched his tools. He was very highly thought of. There was people coming out of the draft thought he had a chance to go in the first round. He ended up going 61st overall, so late second. But there were some that had him as a late first round guy at corner. And if you are a player with physical tools and ability, but maybe not the performance or production to match, and now your position coach is Dave Merritt, and you go to an organization that has traditionally coached up defensive backs really well, wouldn't that seem to be a conducive fit for the player to improve on his established level of performance? What this is, it's not dissimilar in that sense from what the Chiefs are doing with their new left tackle, Jalen Moore. They are seeing some upside in the player and trusting their player development, trusting that they can bring a player in, even a veteran player. Typically, they've had success, particularly in the defensive backfield, with players that they've drafted, right? They've had a ton of hits with guys they've drafted on day 2 and day 3 of the NFL draft. The list of success stories is fairly lengthy for Dave Merritt. Well, now you have a player who's a second-round pick. He's going to be on his third team in 6 years and has had some success, maybe not as much as the Chargers thought they were going to have with him when they signed him to the 1-year deal last year. But get him in your system, get him with your coaches, and develop him and coach him up and get the best version of a player. Again, I think that's a gamble the Chiefs ought to be willing to make.
Yeah.
So I like this signing quite a bit because I'm looking at some numbers now for Trent McDuffie's snap count last season. So he was an all-pro slot corner last year, 2 years ago, all-pro slot corner. Last season, he only played 149 snaps in the slot compared to 765 on the boundary. Now, in your base defense, in your base 4-3, when you only got 2 defensive backs, Trent McDuffie's still going to be out there playing the boundary. But when you go 3 defensive backs, and most teams nowadays play more nickel packages or dime packages than they do base defense. That's just the way the game is played. Those are the terms on which games are played now. If you have the flexibility with 2 starting caliber guys on the outside, and now you just need Watson or Williams to go win that job. You're not leaning on both of them to Watson. We need to see that the first 7 weeks of last year were who you can be and not a fluke. Joshua Williams, we need to find some consistency from you. Now it's one of those guys, whoever wins the job in training camp, you're on one side, Fulton's on the other in your nickel set, and McDuffie is where he might be his best, which is in the slot. So I like the flexibility that this gives the Chiefs. I think that you already saw Fulton improve his game from last year. According to ProFootballRumors.com, the completion percentage against, the yards per target, and the passer rating as the closest defender, Fulton's numbers dramatically improved from 2023 to 2024. So this could be a player who's just now starting to ascend in his NFL career, and now you get him into your system. Now you get him with Dave Merritt, and you could get his best years as a pro these next 2.
And that's what you bank on a lot of guys, right? Like a lot of free agent deals are like that for guys that they have little peaks and valleys in their career, and you're like, well, we got to get this guy to the peak.
Yeah, and that's the idea, that you want to be able to get Fulton's best football. Right now, he's the highest paid cornerback on the Chiefs roster, which is kind of funny. That won't be the case, I don't think, for much longer.
Yeah.
I kind of think a McDuffie extension gets done this offseason, especially after the money J.C. Horn got. Now, J.C. Horn is the highest paid cornerback in the league.
Panthers are just giving out contracts.
We didn't talk about the J.C. Horn contract yesterday, but J.C. Horn got like elite cornerback money. And J.C. Horn is a very good player when he's on the field, which he never is. He's played 37 games in his 4-year NFL career. But he was good last year. He made the Pro Bowl. He got a 4-year, $100 million extension with $70 million guaranteed. Like, what is Patrick Surtain II going to get? What is Sauce Gardner going to get? What is Derek Stingley going to get?
Well, it's like everything is being driven up this. I feel like every market this free agency period, we haven't really even hit the technical start of the league year yet. It seems like every position is being driven up by a few players.
Well, that's a function of the increased salary cap too, and just regular inflation. But at the same time, for J.C. Horn to get that kind of money, what it reminded me of was when Christian Kirk got all that money.
Oh yeah,
from the Jaguars at wide receiver, and he was like the first free agent wide receiver to sign. And when he got that money, all of a sudden, elite wide receivers started looking around and saying, "Well, wait a minute, I want Christian Kirk money.
Yeah,
break me off my Christian Kirk contract plus give me. I'm way better than Christian Kirk," says Tyreek Hill, says Devontae Adams, and not, coincidentally, they ended up getting substantial contracts after that. Defensive back, I think, is like going to be the new wide receiver, and that is going to be a position that is very highly valued. And the Chiefs, as we've talked about, will benefit from being early adopters, being among the first to the market to make sure their star corner stays in their uniform for a long, long time.
Who is not staying in a uniform with the Chiefs, though? That's Justin Reed. He just agreed to a deal with the Saints, 3-year, $31.5 million.
That must have just happened.
$22.25 million is in the last 10 minutes.
That did. That just happened. Adam Schefter has that. Now, the Fulton contract was confirmation.
All but saying they weren't bringing him back.
Confirmation that they weren't going to bring Justin Reed back. Justin Reed to the Saints. He is really speed running the Tyrann Mathieu career arc.
Hey, every Chief will become a Saint.
Yes. Chiefs, the Kansas City and New Orleans pipeline remains strong. Justin Reed, very good player, very good Chief, champion with the Chiefs.
2-time Super Bowl champion.
It's disappointing to see him go, but this is a bet on, again, developing your own guys. This is a bet on Brian Cook being able to step in that role next year and be the captain of the back end.
I think, too, it's a bet on Jaden Hicks performing at a starter level.
Absolutely it is, because then he's going to slide, I think, into the Brian Cook role. So, yes, it is. It is a bet on Hicks, absolutely, just as much as it's a bet on Brian Cook.
Hicks was a 4th-round pick. He was a 4th-round pick for them last year.
So that's going to be your starting safety group next year, and then I don't know who necessarily your third safety is. Probably Shamari Connor, if I had to guess. They can I think now they have enough depth at corner where they don't have to line him up in the slot and have him play corner. I think he can kind of be that third safety role. That might be where he's best.
They'll probably draft somebody too.
But I like that they could. They typically do draft a defensive back on day 3. But I like their mix now. I like with McDuffie, Fulton, Williams, and Watson as your top 4 corners, Cook, Hicks, and Connor as your top 3 safeties. That's solid. Like I think that's a solid to excellent potentially defensive backfield. I really do. That's if there's another level for Cook to get to, and if Hicks settles in his first full year as a starter, definitely some projection there. But I think that it can be pretty good, particularly if Cook is able to seamlessly take on the captain of the defensive backfield role, if you will, in the same way that Justin Reed was able to. But man, all the best with Justin Reed for the Saints. Really enjoyed him the last 3 years. Never forget his kickoff and extra point duties in a pinch. And great interview, great press conference talker. Justin Reed, good chief, champion chief, and best of luck to him.
Final
with the Saints.
two other re-signings for the Chiefs. Depth-wise, Cole Christensen gets another contract at linebacker, and James Winchester will once again be the long snapper.
Yeah, James Winchester coming back. Yep.
Second longest tenured Chief.
That's right. Yeah, you got a good long snapper. You don't let him go. You don't let him go for anything. We'll take a break. What is wrong with you next on 580 Sports Talk? It is What Is Wrong With You time here on 580 Sports Talk. Not Michael Swain just yet. We'll get to him in a moment. I clicked his intro on the YouTube live stream. That was my bad.
I was about to say, I definitely played the right.
No, you did. What Is Wrong With You is brought to you by our buddy Mo, Ryan Mo Winkle, State Farm agent. Go to RyanMoWinkle.com. See what Mo Winkle Insurance Financial Services can do for you. We had a text from 785 asking about our state tournament basketball schedule. We will get that to you before we take this final break. So hang tight if you were wondering about that high school basketball schedule again. But we got What Is Wrong With You right now. We got to run through this, but we did have an update from a previous story. This must have happened when I was away, as I don't remember this story. But Spencer, you have an update on the guy who bit a deputy's head at a music fest.
Yes, so this was one of the stories from May 10th of last year.
Okay. I don't know why I missed that.
Basically, this volunteer in an EDM fest bit a cop's hand as he tried to grab the deputy's gun. Bit removed a chunk of flesh and exposed the deputy's skull.
Yeah.
Because he bit his head.
Yeah.
37-year-old James Anderson of Westerville, Florida, entered a guilty plea last Friday to aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer.
6 years.
6 years in prison and another 10 years of probation.
Good. Least he deserves. All right, so that's an update. We like to do What Is Wrong With You updates when we can. Anyway, our current weekly champion, and we will crown our champion for the week today here on What Is Wrong With You. The Pringles pummeling, the woman who hit a guy with a Pringles can. Just walked up and wanged him underneath the eye with a Pringles can. Of course, that story happened in Florida. 2 new stories today. Spencer, yours first.
Yes, we're going to go to Scranton, Pennsylvania, Lackawanna County.
Okay.
There are new developments on Monday regarding a rental tent scam. Police say a 23-year-old Florida man is charged with stealing more than $50,000 from the Lackawanna County Arts and Cultural Department. This all began last winter when the Arts and Cultural Department of Lackawanna County was scammed through an email out of that money, which they thought went to pay for rental tents used for their Winterfest. Florida police arrested 23-year-old Michael Petrolio, I think, on Friday. He was charged with theft, forgery, and other charges. Police say the Florida resident allegedly represented himself as a person who works for the L&A tent renters from New Jersey through an email in December of 2023. The county director of Arts and Cultural thought that she had sent a payment of $56,000 to the tent company. L&A Tent Rentals contacted her in January of 2024 looking for the money and stating that the account she sent it to was not their account. Lackawanna County filed a claim with the district attorney's office to investigate the matter. They found the bank account belonged to Petrolo and found the money was used or attempted for DoorDash, Uber, Delta Airlines flight, and even a verbal rental. He faces a maximum penalty of 47 years in prison and a $95,000 fine. He has yet to be extradited back to Pennsylvania.
Always got to double check. Make sure that's a valid bank account you're sending your money to. That's a savvy scam by Mr. Petrillo there.
So when I was working at the other station that I worked at in West Virginia, one of these national buy companies that sell ads, there is this place I work for is WRNR AM. There's in Annapolis a WRNR. And they accidentally sent us money. And it was like this whole thing when they were going through and doing like auditing themselves or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we need this money back. And we're like, well, that's awkward.
Yeah, went to the wrong place.
Yeah.
That's an honest mistake.
Yes.
For my story, we're going to Memphis, Tennessee, where a man claimed his dog shot him while lying in bed on Monday morning. The Memphis Police Department responded to the accidental injury call just before 4 a.m. Monday. Gerald Kirkwood told police he was lying in bed with his female friend when his 1-year-old pit bull, Oreo, jumped on the bed and got his paw stuck in the trigger guard and hit the trigger, grazing Kirkwood with a bullet in the top of his left thigh. Reports say the female friend left the scene after the accidental shooting and took the gun with her. The victim was taken to a local hospital in non-critical condition. The friend said that the pit bull is really friendly and that his friend is fine. Why you got a gun in bed, man? Like,
yeah, what the heck?
Like, why you having a little cuddle sesh with your female friend? Why do you need the gun on you? Like, why do you need the gun on you? That poor dog probably feels terrible, doesn't know how to express it because it's a dog. It didn't mean to hurt its owner. Just jumped up, probably saw the Snuggles and was like, hey, Snuggles, those sound good. I would like to snuggle. And then guy gets shot. Just pick your spots with your guns, people. Like, there's one thing I could say. Pick your spots with your guns. Some places you don't need them. In bed with your female friend is one of the places that I would think is on top of the list.
Hey, look.
Like, what, are you afraid somebody's going to break in?
There's a side table under the bed, like a lot of places.
Look, you're already worried about one accidental discharge. You don't need to be worried about a second. Can't believe I made that joke. Who wins today?
Oh, I think
we got to give it to the scammer because it's just a dog.
But the I think our weekly winner wins the week. I think the Pringles pummeling.
I do too. I think the Pringles pummeling is going to win the week here on What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by our guy Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan, Mo Winkle. See what Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. I bet he's full of good advice, like don't need your gun in bed with your female friend. You don't. RyanMowinkle.com is the website. Before we get to Michael Swain, real quick, as promised, our state basketball coverage for tomorrow starts at 2 o'clock. 1A1 girls, Centralia against St. John Hudson from Dodge City. That's our 2 o'clock game. 4 o'clock game, 2A boys, Valley Falls against Syracuse. 6 o'clock game, which could be preempted entirely by K-State basketball if they win tonight. But our 6 o'clock game, 5A girls from Emporia, Seaman and Piper. And then the 8 o'clock game, which we would join in progress if there was a K-State game tomorrow night. 6A boys, Washburn Rural, and Wichita Heights from Wichita. Visit our socials, 5A Sports Talk on X, 5asportstalk.bsky.social on Blue Sky, WIBW News on Facebook, 5awibw.com. We'll keep you updated with our schedule for tournament coverage. Michael Swain joins us next for Fog.net. We are joined in the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael covers all things Jayhawks for Fog.net and joins us for Jayhawk Weekly every Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, is it just us, or did KU end up on the friendlier side of the Big 12 men's basketball bracket?
Yeah, it's not just you guys. I think KU definitely, if you're looking at like pure matchups, right, I think KU got the good side of the bracket, right? If KU is able to avoid Houston, right, which is the best team in the conference, and you avoid a bad matchup like a BYU, and the game you play if you win on Wednesday is a team you just beat a couple of days ago, I'd say that's pretty favorable. And I think Arizona generally is a very good matchup for KU. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a world in which KU makes it to the semifinal on Friday. And look, that's going to be a tough game against what will likely be Texas Tech. But for KU getting some momentum going into the NCAA tournament, it's going to be big. And I think the ability to get what should be a win on Wednesday night, and then the ability to really build on that with potentially another win over a top 25-ish team in Arizona the following night, right? That's a pretty good recipe for KU going into the tournament.
KU defeated Arizona on Saturday in the regular season finale. Senior day streak now at 42 years for the Jayhawks. How much did it feel like maybe a little lightness had returned to guys like Hunter Dickinson, really the whole senior class, the leaders of this KU team, winning that game, going into the tournament with some better vibes? Did it feel to you, like watching them, hearing them in the post-game press conference, that maybe not a 500-pound gorilla was off their back, but that something had been loosened up a little bit for them with that performance and that win?
I don't know, honestly. I think a part of it is the relief of not losing another one of these kind of marquee games. You know what I'm saying? You look back throughout the course of the year, right? What are the marquee games KU has won? It's really Iowa State at home on Big Monday in terms of Big 12 play, right? I think that was definitely something that you could tell, I think, meant something to them, especially, Bill Self talked about too post-game, right? The way that KU stayed in the game when things started to go against them, the way that they were able to continue to battle when, I think at times this season, this KU team has struggled in those times, right? There have been times when, things start going against KU and it snowballs and they're able to respond. So I think, some of those aspects of it were encouraging, but I don't know, guys. I struggle to buy into the whole new dawn stuff at this time, just because of what we've seen, right? I think Bill Self kind of said it too yesterday, right? The hay is pretty much in the barn for a lot of people. And what we've seen from KU this season is that they are a team that is quite inconsistent, and they have not been able to put together consistent performances, right? You look back throughout the course of Big 12 play, KU has not had many back-to-back wins, right? You look recently, the back-to-back wins they've had have been Oklahoma State and Colorado, two of the worst teams in the conference. And then you have to go back to mid-January when they beat K-State and TCU. So it's a team that has not been super consistent. And so just for me personally, you look at it and say, okay, Texas Tech, Houston, 2 losses, Arizona, a win. In my mind, I'm like, okay, there's maybe 1-2 wins coming and then a loss, just because KU's not been a consistent team that can continually put together winning performances without really shooting itself in the foot.
DeJuan Harris looked like a bit of a different player on Saturday than he had in recent games, a bit more confident, a bit more spry. Can KU get that version of Harris from this point forward? If they do, how much does that raise their ceiling? And again, we're not talking about DeJuan Harris needing to score 15, 20 points a night. It's never been his game, but just playing with a bit more confidence and a bit more attack-minded. I feel like that's been missing a little bit from the veteran point guard at times this year. How much do they need that?
They definitely do. They need to be aggressive. And you can't, if you're KU, I think we talked on the show before, you can't roll out there with multiple non-scorers. You can't have KJ Adams being stagnant. You can't have DeJuan Harris deferring. And I think the great part for KU about Saturday, and even broadly, I think recently, is the fact that KJ Adams has been playing on the front foot. I think a lot of times this year, if you've watched KU's offense, KJ's kind of been stagnant. And I think the great part for him recently, and Bill Self again has talked about it, the fact that KJ probably sees the end is near. He only has guaranteed 2 more games of college basketball left. He wants to play more, obviously. But I think there comes a point in time when you realize, man, this is it. And you got to keep playing and competing your butt off. And I think, DeJuan and KJ are 2 great examples of that. 2 players that have not had super consistent years, but I think recently have started to show that, hey, all right, it's like not to say the lights turned on, but man, like that fire that they have played with at times in their career, but not always, is back. And so I think for KU, that's a huge positive.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports here on 580 WIBW. And Michael, Big 12, all Big 12 teams announced. Why is it they have 10 guys on the first team?
Well, it's something that they did with the women's teams, and it stems from having so many, obviously, new teams in the conference, 4, but if you count right, some of the churn too, just generally, there's a lot of new teams, and I think they wanted to make sure that they could honor the best teams or the best players in the conference. Now, I don't really understand how you're going to say there's 10 first-team guys, only 5 second and 5 third. That feels a little weird to me, but, whatever. I'd almost say, hey, do a first and second team and then like a third. Do like 4 teams if you're going to do it that way. But it's weird. And they also changed something. This is something that's kind of crazy. That obviously, the Big 12, they're such great communicators. That's me being sarcastic. They changed it where now honorable mention is 2 votes. So you have to get 2 votes to be an honorable mention. So that's why, for example, someone like KJ Adams was an honorable mention because he got 1 vote from 1 coach, but not 2. So it's just something that I don't really understand why they went the way they did with the numbers and the teams and all that stuff. But yeah, it is what it is. And I've stopped trying to read into what the Big 12 does.
Feel like Hunter Dickinson first team was deserved. I would have put him on a first team of 5. I don't know how you felt about Hunter's season, but I would have put him if you'd done a real basketball team of 5 and had that be your first team. He would have been on my first team because obviously the numbers were there, but I thought he got better and played better against the best competition late in the season. And that was kind of something that Bill Self and Hunter Dickinson have talked about, kind of the need to lean on the big fella in his final collegiate games. And it sure seems like Hunter has accepted that challenge a little bit.
Definitely. And I love the whole, KU's really going to try and play through Hunter Dickinson down the stretch. Like, breaking news, the team wants to play through its best player, right? Like, shocker. Now, a conversation I was having with someone is how good would Kansas have had to be for Hunter Dickinson to be Big 12 Player of the Year? Because you look at the Ken Palm, like, National Player of the Year stuff, he's third. And I think he is someone that, just because of the way the season has gone for KU, because of the narrative around Hunter Dickinson, is that he's a guy that's been in college too long and this, that, and the other thing. I think he is almost, it's so weird to say, but I think he's almost underrated because of the fact that he is so consistent and has been so consistent. And you're looking at him and saying a down week for him is him going for 12-8. And you look at what he's done recently, right? 23.2 points, 11 rebounds over the last 5 games. Like, he's played at a very high level. So I think he was always going to be a locked on pick for first team all Big 12. I think kind of the more interesting question to debate, and maybe you guys can do it later in the week, is like, how good would Kansas have had to be for him to be Big 12 Player of the Year? Is it kind of Arizona's record where it's 14-6? Do they have to get to Texas Tech 15-5, right? JT Toppins is Player of the Year and then Tech's in second place. It's just an interesting exercise because I think Hunter, you got to win games, but I think to some degree Hunter is the best player in the Big 12. And I think that the fact that KU's not had a ton of team success has probably limited the fact that he probably won't get that award or didn't get that award.
Couple more questions for Michael Swain of Fog.net, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. What matchup is the better matchup for KU tomorrow, pending tonight's results? Do you think that they're silently rooting for the Golden Knights, or I guess they're just the Knights now, of UCF, or the Utes of Utah? Do they want their lick back from that loss in Salt Lake City?
That's a really good question. A part of me thinks that, I think kind of UCF is maybe a little bit of a better matchup because they're a little bit more guard heavy, where Utah is just a huge team. And if you're talking about a tournament that's going to make you play potentially, right? 4 games in 4 days, like, you kind of don't want to play a really kind of physical team, a big team in your first game. I know UCF plays up and down, but you can recover quickly from cardiovascular exhaustion, right? It's the physical exhaustion of having to go pound inside for someone like Zeke Mayo, right? Having to go compete on the glass to not allow Utah offensive rebounds. It's stuff like that I think can really wear on a team. So I might lean UCF. And also I think the familiarity aspect definitely plays a role as well.
Let's pivot to football real quick here, Michael, as spring practice is underway for the Kansas Jayhawks. You've got some great stuff up on the VIP section of fog.net and 24/7 Sports about the linebacker room and the wide receiver room. I want to ask you about that wide receiver group in particular. Obviously, there's a lot of production to replace in that wide receiver room. If there's one guy to you that has maybe put himself in position to help replace some of that production early on, who would that be?
Look, I mean, I think I maybe talked on the show. I can't remember, but like Emmanuel Henderson has a huge wide range of outcomes just because of the fact that he's got so much raw talent, but he doesn't have a ton of like long-term experience at wide receiver. But man, it's hard not to watch him at practice. And granted, we're not seeing everything, but it's hard not to watch him at practice, hear the coaches talk about the way he hit the ground running in the weight room, and not be excited about what he can do at wide receiver. I think he's the type of player that just in terms of dynamic athleticism, KU has not had at the wide receiver position. Just in terms, you take his height, you take his length, and just the athletic ability. Like it's just the mixing combination that Kansas has not had. And for KU to get him, I think was a huge win to begin with. And I think generally he's someone that I'm probably going to tap for being a big time player for KU in the fall.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Be a VIP subscriber at 24/7 Sports. It's great value, and it's great insider info from Michael and the rest of the beat writers at 24/7 Sports, but especially Michael's stuff with the Jayhawks at fog.net. Catch him every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys.
That is Michael Swain. We'll step aside, take one final break, and wrap up this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk after this. Final word time on 580 Sports Talk. It's our last one for the week. Make it good, Spencer.
Yeah, it's the best time of year, right? State basketball, yes. Big 12 tournament, correct. Then the NCAA tournament.
That's right.
Oh, my gosh, it's going to be so fun the next few weeks. I'm just a little disappointed that this weekend it's only going to be 54 degrees after being 72 and 75 tomorrow. It's going to be 54 both days. I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, don't put your hoodies away just yet.
Yeah.
Final word for me. This brought to my attention a texter from the 816. I want to shout out for the Baker Wildcats. They're hosting the first 2 rounds of the NAIA men's basketball tournament in Baldwin for the first time ever. Had a great year, went 28-3 under head coach Sean Dooley. It's been a great year for smaller college basketball in the state of Kansas. When you look at the year that the Baker men have had, obviously the Washburn men hosting the NCAA Central Region starting on Saturday. Very excited for that. So tip of the cap to them for sure. High school basketball tomorrow, our 58th year of Road to a Championship coverage. Kicks off at 2 o'clock. 1A1 girls, Centralia and St. John Hudson. 2A boys, Valley Falls and Syracuse. 5A girls, Seaman and Piper. 6A boys, Rural and Wichita Heights. Hope you'll join us starting at 2 o'clock tomorrow for Road to a Championship coverage. Until we talk to you again, for Brendan and Spencer, I'm Dan. This has been 580 Sports Talk. K-State's next. Good night.